Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us in our second webcast. I am Avni Bhatnagar, leading the Tankers Research Desk at Segal Sea Trade, a leading shipping consultant in India, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all. I will be your presenter for today's discussion on clean tanker market and its potential in India. We also have with us Mr. Vijay Handa, President Shipping, Segal Sea Trade, for an expert Q&A session after this presentation. So let's begin. Firstly, we'll talk about refineries. Conventional refineries prefer buying light and sweet crude, whereas modern refineries prefer buying heavy and sour crude, as they can be efficiently processed. View complexity of such refineries measured by the Nelson Index. Modern refineries also have the ability to quickly interchange production levels depending on products' demand. One such example of a modern refinery, also the largest single location refinery in the world, is Reliance Industries Limited's Jamnagar refinery in India with an installed capacity of 1.24 million barrels per day. Here we see the range of petroleum products produced in a refinery and their share-wise usage on the right-hand side, which clearly shows that transport sector is the biggest consumer of petroleum products worldwide. Major consumers of gasoline and gas oil. US is the biggest consumer of gasoline, consuming about 36% of the world total, whereas Europe is the biggest consumer of gas oil, consuming about 24% of the world total consumption in 2019. India's share in consumption of both the fuels is relatively low. However, India's gasoline consumption has risen by about 9%, while that of gas oil has risen by about 4% in 2019 from the 2018 levels. As on April 1, 2020, India's installed refining capacity stands at 249.9 million metric tons per annum. After Haldia Refinery's capacity expansion by 0.5 MMTPA, Indian Oil Corporation's total refining capacity has reached 81.2 MMTPA, which is a 32.5% share of the national refining capacity. The above table in this slide shows us the capacity expansion planned by 2022, majorly on the east coast of India. In the upcoming refineries, there is HPCL Rajasthan Refinery Limited, expected to be commissioned by 2022-2023. Another one in line is the Ratnagiri Refinery Petrochemicals Limited, which is a joint venture between Indian PSUs, IOCL, BPCL and HPCL, having a combined share of 50%, and foreign players ADNOC and Saudi Aramco, having a combined share of the remaining 50%. The location of this refinery has been moved to Raigarh in Maharashtra, and the project, facing some delays, is now expected to be commissioned by the year 2025. Now we'll see the Indian imports and exports of petroleum products. Major import products are LPG, lube oil, and fuel oil. Major export products are MS, naphtha, ATF, and HSD. Owing to the country's large refining capacity, the net product exports for 2019-20 stands at 53,398,000 metric tons, taking into account MS, naphtha, ATF, and HSD. Now let's talk about the shipping industry for the next few slides. The worldwide clean tanker fleet totals around 3,000 vessels, of which MR2s account a whopping 56% share, indicating greater preference for these vessels due to their size and flexibility to carry multiple grades of cargo. In the order book also, around 69% of the new orders are given for MR2 vessels. Size-wise percentage of worldwide fixtures. In the LR2 segment, majority of the cargo traded on MEG East and Med Far East route is naphtha, with a cargo size of 75 to 90 TMT, and major cargo traded on AG West Coast India UKC and AG West Coast India East Africa is ULSD, UMS, and jet fuel, with a cargo size of 90 TMT. In the LR1 segment, majority of the cargo traded on MEG East is naphtha with a cargo size of 55 TMT, while major cargo traded on MEG UKC and MED-BAF is ULSD, UMS, and jet fuel with a cargo size of 60 to 65 TMT. Here we can see that tonnage-wise, MRs have the highest share of about 45%. Route-wise, CPP trade is largely coastal in India, and about 32% fixtures ex-India are concluded on India-Far East routes. The Indian tanker fleet consists of 58 vessels, of which 11 are trading dirty, and the major cargoes traded on exports are ULSD, naphtha, ATF, and gasoline, whereas for coastal, they are gasoline, gas oil, and naphtha. Most of the cargoes on the Indian coast are covered by Indian flag tonnage, JESCO, SCI, and Sanmar, and the major charterers are IOC and Reliance. Also, there are presently 28 vessels on time charter with Indian charterers for coastal trade, of which 23 are Indian and 5 are foreign flagged. This slide shows us the present standing of different countries in adopting alternate sources of energy. Europe has been leading in its fast adoption of renewable sources, including solar and wind energy. China and India too are following its path as energy consumption from renewables has increased by around 66% in China and 61% in India in 2019 from the 2017 levels. Talking about India's future outlook, we believe that the increasing shift from fossil fuel-based energy to renewable energy sources will not affect India's oil demand growth in the near future. India's energy consumption is set to grow at 4.2% per annum up to 2035, and India plans to meet this increased energy requirement through a combination of cleaner grades of petrol and diesel, CNG, biofuels, and electric vehicles. Petrochemicals are set to account for over a third of growth in oil demand to 2030 and nearly half to 2050, prompting refiners to shift from products to the production of chemicals. As seen in the graph, India's petrochemical exports are estimated to rise by around 6% in 2020-2021, of which aromatics has the highest share of 43%. That's all with the presentation. Now let's move on to our Q&A round, where we have Mr. Vijay Handa with us. Also, my colleague Sachin Azrani would like to ask him a few questions. Over to you, Sachin.
Thank you, Avni. Hi, Handa sir. How are you doing today?
Yeah, fine here.
Thank you, sir. We have a few points of discussion lined up for you today, starting with the fact that since a majority of the new build refineries coming up are situated in Asia and the Middle East, what impact do you see this will have on the CPP trade flow?
Yeah, it is a key development in oil sector, which commenced during late 90s, and now it is fully getting fructified as number of refineries are already on stream or in process of completion in the near future. Outcome has started becoming visible over last 5 to 7 years and would be much more established in the near future. Asian and Middle East region would become along on the clean petroleum products we call CPP, and trade flow to Europe, Med, East Africa, West Africa, Far East, and Australia would increase. In order to achieve economies of scale and optimization of freight, bigger tonnage would be deployed, that is LR2 over LR1 or over MR. Movement of gasoline from Europe to USA and gas oil from USA to Europe shall continue in LR1 and MR size view port restrictions in USA. Some suppliers from Asia and Middle East would try to compete with the European gasoline for USA with economies of scale of bigger tonnage till point of diversion in Europe and then break bulking into LR1 or MR size for delivery to USA. I sincerely believe that key to this game in future would be who has got control on the cheaper freight cost.
Thank you, sir. And continuing on the cost, basically, how do you see the storage and arbitrage opportunities in the CPP trade affecting the freight rates?
Yeah, storage in CPP trade is not common unless there is an emergency situation like COVID-19 leading to sudden halt in demand of petroleum products due lockdowns. The storage of CPP went up to about 80 million barrels during mid-May 20. The main reason for lack of preference for storage by the traders or by the receivers is the fear of cargo getting quality off spec against agreed trade contract specifications. This is common for all products, but more so in case of ATF. Arbitrage opportunities are very common. Trade flow, ship chartering takes off once arbitrage gets open for a product in a particular receiving region. Freight rates do shoot up in both the scenarios, that is storage as well as in arbitrage. Therefore, the freight market became highly volatile with freight and charter rates during April-May 20 reaching all-time high. Now it is coming back to normalcy as lockdowns are getting lifted and economic activities are commencing slowly in most of the countries.
Thank you, sir. Just a continuation on the what happened in April. Is the floating storage economics still favorable for product tankers? And do you see or expect freight rates to reach similar levels as we observed in April this year in the near future?
Floating storage in CPP is not preferred, as I explained in the previous answer. Tankers for floating storage were hired at exorbitant rates. With gradual opening of lockdowns in progress, revival of economic activity has also commenced in various countries. This will lead to the demand for CPP products. Charterers, receivers would prefer to discharge cargo from these tankers, which may be stored for 2 or 3 months till now. For reasons advised to you while answering my previous answer. This would also minimize exposure of high charter rates for the charterers.
Understood, sir. From a ship owner's perspective, what is your view on investment in tonnage for the next or short long term?
Yeah. Basis current clean tanker fleet, about 70% is comprised of MR1, MR2, and 12 to 13% share by LR2 and LR1 respectively. LR3 share about 4 to 5%. Current order book till 2022 also shows MR tankers leading, followed by LR2. As explained while answering question 1, LR2 would be in demand as we progress into the next 3-4 years, while MR tankers would play regional and also coastal role. LR1s, though, are losing ground, but would be relevant for USA ports and Australian ports. LR3 may have economies of scale, but there are less number of LR3s compliant ports. Thus, LR3 use is restricted and not catching up. But the number of ports are now considering to comply for LR3 parameters, that is LOA, displacement, and draft, during next 5 to 10 years, which may trigger more ordering of LR3s.
And what, in your view, is the best type of tonnage to invest in right now, sir?
Shipping being a capital intensive, it is very difficult to give any view, as each owner would decide on tonnage investment basis his risk appetite. but in general, believes investment in LR2 or MR, depending on balance sheet of owner or if any long-term contract possibility he has got. Ideally, tankers deployed on longer and cross-trade voyages should preferably be modern with bunker-efficient tonnage. Ships deployed on coastal within a region can be second-hand, age between 8 years to say 20 years, but well maintained. Coatings should be compatible to most of major cargoes in order to have better tradability of ships. As next 5 to 10 years may see more growth in chemical cargoes, MR tankers can have coatings compatible to chemical cargoes to have much better tradability.
Thank you, sir. And now I'll be handing it over back to Avni for a few more questions.
Thank you, Sachin. Continuing our Q&A round, I would like to ask a few more questions on the Indian shipping industry. What effects or impact has the IMO 2020 sulfur cap had on the Indian shipping or coastal trade so far?
The delta between 3.5% sulfur HFO and 0.5% sulfur LSFO price was about USD 175 to $200 per metric ton during the beginning of Jan 2020. View easy avail of 0.5% sulfur fuel thereafter, and lower crude price over last 3 to 4 months has bridged this delta to a range of about USD 75 to 100 per metric ton. This has provided a relief to number of ship owners who have not invested in scrubbers. Most of the Indian owners also have not invested in the scrubbers for their ships. At the same time, it has been noted over the last few months that modern bunker-efficient ships fitted with scrubbers have commanded charter hire rate premium of about 20 to 25% over less bunker-efficient ships without scrubbers.
Thank you, sir. And lastly, as the name of our presentation suggests, I would like to ask you, how much potential do you see in the Indian tanker shipping industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, this is a very pertinent question. Indian oil industry and trade has grown many folds over last 2 decades. Ideally, Indian tanker fleet should also have grown concurrently. However, it has not kept a pace. The share of Indian flag tonnage in carriage of India's exim oil trade of about 280 million metric ton for say 2018-19 is approximately 12%, which is very poor, and major share out of this is crude oil imports. Thus, for clean cargoes, it is further poor. However, in case of coastal crude and clean cargoes, participation of Indian flag tonnage is about 95 to 100% for crude and 90% for clean cargoes. Segment-wise, Indian fleet have few VLCCs, Suezmaxes, LR2s, LR1s, MR, handysize. However, their number is too less compared to cargo volumes. Barring few ships in Indian fleet, others face difficulties in calling at international ports and terminals due to issue of age or track record. There are number of factors leading to this situation and requires a separate debate considering all factors. The tanker shipping being a strategic importance for the country. However, government has not done much to support its growth. China, Japan, South Korea are examples who have allowed shipping industry to grow in tandem with their trade and thus reaping the benefits. It is high time now that government grants infrastructure status to tanker shipping, and for that matter, to ship owning of all other types of cargo ships. They have done this already in case of ports and shipyards in the shipping sector. They have to just extend the same to ship owning, which is also a major constituent of shipping sector, and very vital for Atmanirbhar policy of Government of India. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights. And thank you all for joining us. We look forward to meeting you in the future sessions as well. Till then, take care and stay safe.